Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Spirited Art Studio. It is May 6th at 1:30, and we are having a Spirited Art Studio session. And today we are going to be starting on Canvas. So I am excited about that, and I know others of you will be excited as well. So the Spirited Art Studio, for those who might be joining in for the first time, this is a studio at Robertson Wesley United Church. Normally, we gather in an art studio that we have had the fortune of being able to meet together it's a very accessible area in the lower level of the Robertson Wesley United Church. So it makes it accessible to all people. And when times were different, of course, so now in order to continue with the art studio, we've decided to go online and continue to be able to be in community virtually as we wait until we can again be together in the actual physical space of the studio. So while I'm waiting for a few of you to join in on this day, I'm going to just talk a little more about the studio and who we are and why we have this facilitated program. So who are we? We are a community of artists who gather together. So we gather for creativity and make art together. My name is Laura Foster, and I facilitate the program. I am an art therapist, and firstly, I'm an artist. I have a real passion for art making and creativity with all kinds of media. And in my own journey, I found art to be just very healing as it is expressive, and I've also found that being in community is also very important for health and wellness, and so I really think that this is a really great program to be a part of, and so I'm happy to be continuing with it online. So typically, the art studio program is less structured. People bring their own art supplies sometimes. Those who have their own art projects going on, sometimes at home and outside of the art studio, they then come and join us and bring their own art projects with them. But and so many have experience with art. There are also people who don't have a lot of experience creating art, and some who have very little or no experience. All are welcome, and we come together and we learn together. And as I said, typically in our art studio in the church, we share ideas, we learn from each other. Each of us can contribute to the learning experience. So now that I've gone online, it's more structured, and I'm offering more information from my own perspective, and still, of course, on this Facebook live stream can allow for comments and feedback and questions, but generally speaking, in this format, I need to allow for more structure than usual. Another important thing we advocate for in this community-based program is just having a atmosphere where everybody is welcome, and just to achieve a sense of belonging, so that regardless of what your background may be in art, or where you are coming from, whether you're new in the area or you what age you are, or any kind of situation or circumstances you are in, you are welcome. And so it's a very inclusive space, and compassionate and non-judgmental. So that those are important pieces that we like to advocate for and stand for in the studio. So yeah, it's a community where we strive to have creativity, make art together, have compassion, to be inclusive, accessible, where all can feel unconditional acceptance with each other. And finally, it's about connection, for meeting people and getting to know people at a different level through creative, innovative environment, and create new connections and develop community and friendship. So that's what this community is about. So welcome, and thank you for joining in and seeing what the art studio is all about today. So this afternoon, I've decided to carry on with information about color theory, and with the concepts of color theory, I'm also going to add some ideas about technique and how to begin, and with a blank canvas, and using different techniques with acrylic paint to achieve a background for different multimedia artwork. So I'm going to begin by just referring back to the session on Monday night, where we were talking about color theory and the color wheel. And so we have this color wheel, and I'm just going to note that today's focus is going to be on an analogous color scheme, and we're going to be using colors in the range from yellow to blue, and so the different greens along this section of the color wheel, and see variations of that forming an analogous color scheme. And we're also going to be adding white to create tints, and possibly a little bit of black to also create darker tones of colors. So just see who's here. Hello, I see 2 are watching. Thanks for joining us. And so I'm going to begin, first of all, with just brushing some paint on. And I'm going to take this cerulean blue and add some white to it to create a color that is a nice sky blue. And I'm using a plastic lid as a color palette just because it is easy to use and it's handy, convenient, and just good environmentally friendly idea. Notice I'm using this lid that I've already used. The paint that is underneath is all dry, and so it's just like using clean plastic. So I've just gone on top of it and created my sky blue color. And I'm just going to, just thought I'd like to have this color in the upper right hand corner, so I'm just going to go ahead and brush this on. Just thinking about having sort of this nice, cheery, sort of sunny, cheerful blue color. Looks like a clear sunny day. And I just brushed that on flat, so that is, just to show you, that is one option, and pretty much the most straightforward option for applying paint to a surface. And so I'm just noticing that I don't have my paper towels handy, but luckily I do have my water, so I'm going to put this brush aside now, and I'm just going to talk more about backgrounds. I've got this calendar here, and it's got shows the different butterflies that are in the calendar. It's a calendar about butterflies from the World Wildlife Fund. And on the back it shows each month of the calendar year and which butterfly is on for each month. But I'm showing you this mostly just to see how the backgrounds are shown in photography and how they're, when you're doing up-close photography like this for, I guess with a macro lens, so getting up really close and zooming into something very small, the background is out of focus. And so it provides kind of a nice backdrop. And so this is the sort of background I'm going to try and use as a reference to create a background for my my acrylic painting. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the foreground yet. I'm planning to do some kind of multimedia on this canvas, so I'm going to be adding some collage and so on. It can be really fun to add stenciling and collage and other items to create a desired effect, and sometimes it can be really fun to superimpose different elements that are kind of normally you wouldn't see together, so juxtaposing maybe some super large, maybe for example like a butterfly, and putting yourself right in the picture along with the butterfly or something like that, which I'm considering to do right now. So I'm going to just carry on with my painting on this canvas and going with the idea of using techniques to develop a backdrop that kind of takes on the same effect of the greenery in the background of these different butterflies. So I'm going to mix up some different a range of colors. I want to have some yellow and some blue on my palette. So, and then I'm going to just begin to put these colors on by just sponging them on with these different sponge brushes. So mixing the yellow and blue together. First kind of equally so that they are kind of a medium green, and then just sponging on this textured color just like this. And just to sort of have a medium range. And also sort of a medium texture, sponging as I just sort of blob the paint right on like this. And so now, just to add some variety, I'm going to add a little bit more blue to the green. And that creates a little bit of a darker area. And I'm also just going to go back with this light blue that is still wet and add the paint that I happen to have on my brush and kind of blur it into this upper area. And just to blend it a bit. So I begin to have some texture and color and an analogous color scheme of blues and greens. So creating maybe a background that could be like greenery in a garden, for example. So, hello Richard, good to see you. Thanks for popping in. So you can see I am doing some painting on canvas, acrylic on canvas. And it's going to be a background, and eventually we're going to be doing some collage over top. So, I see I've got some others joining in, but I'm not sure who, but I'd love for you to say hello if you're feeling like doing so. And now adding more yellow to the green and adding it in as well. So it creates a nice variety of darks and lights and Just going to continue to add paint. And as you can see, it goes fairly quickly. And it's kind of arbitrary, but I'm wanting to be lighter on this side and then eventually working to some mid-tones and then bringing it darkest to this side. And not really any special reason for that, except for that I just want to have a nice variety of colors and tones and textures, and have a little bit of, just making a little bit of a decision to have some type of flow from light to dark. Okay, so I've got more green and more yellow, more blue, and just gonna add just a touch of black. Black is just not wanting to come out. Suck. Ah, there we go. And I'm going to add more white again over on this palette. Oops. Got lots of white, so that's interesting. So I guess I'm going to be using more white than I had intended. I think I'm going to make a nice light yellow color with some of this white. Not a lot of solid yellow left on the palette, so it's looking more like a really light green, which is fine too. So I'm going to add this light green to the canvas and see how that looks. So, and I'm just trying to kind of twist and turn my brush so that it has more of a texture that I'm trying to achieve. And this is all like about experimenting and just enjoying the process and seeing what happens as you use the paint and get comfortable with the colors that are coming up. So I'm just going to add some straight blue. Just to add some contrast to that really light color. Just adding some really dark stuff. So, hi Pam, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Thank you. Glad you're enjoying watching. So, as I was saying, I'm using an analogous color scheme in the ranges of blues to yellows, which is, you know, a whole range of greens, and I'm also adding white. I'm going to have this eventually be a background for some kind of multimedia artwork. Not sure what is going to be resulting in the painting, but this for now is what I'm focusing on, and just demonstrating how you can create a texture in a background by using a sponge brush. And also I used just a flat brush just to show the contrast of that in this upper corner with a sort of a sky blue by using the cerulean blue with white. And now I'm just adding more texture and more color. And eventually I'm going to work it down to a darker area down here and keeping it light up there. So I'll just keep going with that plan. And I'm using my plastic palettes, plastic container lids, cottage cheese container lid. As we're all familiar with in our art studio, we have stacks of those because it's just a good environmentally friendly way to recycle plastic. And if you have any questions with what I'm doing and like more information, I provided my email address, so feel free to email, or also you could direct message, or also like some of you have been doing already. It's always great to have you comment and put questions in the feed section of this live stream that we're doing right now. So I'm just going to add some white to this darker blue. So I've just created another completely different color. And I think I'm just going to also use, set this brush down for a sec and use a different brush. And that brush is a bit dry, so I'm just adding some water to it, so if it's moist then the bristles soften, and so it's just easier to use. And I'm going to use this little brush, this colors, and just to dabble in just some different textures. And so just imagining this maybe to be a garden of greenery. It has lots of texture and color. And so you can see these little dabs with this smaller brush provide a contrast to the larger sponge splotches with the sponge brush that make a different texture. And that gives you the idea of how you can develop a range of colors and textures. So I'm just going to put that brush down and go back to my original sponge brush. This was actually my original brush. This brush I used for this blue area. So I just got a flat area of paint in that area. The rest of the area so far has been very textured and modeled with using a sponge brush. So going back to this brush, I'm going to add some darker blue. So I'm going to take this cerulean blue, my primary blue color, and I'm just going to add just a tiny little bit of black. And when I say tiny, I really mean that, because you only need very little black to really change a color, as opposed to white. We tend to use a lot of white, and very little black is necessary to mute a color. As you can see, I took this brilliant, very brilliant cerulean blue and just added a little bit of black, and this is the color that happened. And I'm just going to see what happens when I add that in to the mix. And I'm going to start working my way down into these corners. So the one thing that's really nice about doing this kind of painting, this background painting, is it's just very engaging as you focus in just the process of finding a variety of different colors of greens and blues and yellows to form this background. It can just be a nice, mindful, engaging process that you can focus in on. And as we do this, we can just kind of take our minds away from whatever thoughts or preoccupations we might have had before starting. And so this is what makes it a nice focusing and calming process. Okay, so just going to add some more blue. Now this is fully saturated blue that I'm putting down right now. Haven't mixed it really with any color except what happens to still be on my brush, and what also still just happens to be on the canvas that is still in the drying process, that is going to mix in right on the canvas as I work with it. I like how these kind of little edges with the light green just kind of happened on their own as I added in this blue. So now it's beginning to suggest the different kinds of foliage that you might see in a garden, different kinds of greenery. And this dark blue, I'm just going to add just a touch of yellow. This is some nice darker greens that are going to be a nice color that I may just go on top of with a lighter tones, just to create some contrast. As you can see, my canvas is really bouncy because I'm kind of standing back so that you can see how it's coming along, but typically I might be more in front of my canvas and having a better look at it straight on and having it just holding on to it a little more, but right now I'm just kind of improvising a bit so that you can see. There, got a little bit of white. Oh, lots of white all of a sudden there. And if there's something that you get that comes a little bit too bright or too intense or too dark, then you can just go over top and just continue to blend it in until you have the effect that you want. So it's kind of a little bit about using your intuition as you create the effect you want. And just again, going back to using this butterfly calendar as a reference and just looking at the backgrounds in each of these photos and noticing how the greens are just blurred in the background, and we're kind of looking to achieve a similar effect. Okie doke. So, got the blue. Add some more yellow again. Getting a more fully saturated green, so avoiding too much white this time. So it looks like it's a nice day out there. I'm just going to see what happens when I just add a little more up here. And then back down here. I'm just going to lift up my canvas and just get right down onto the bottom of the canvas like this. It's turning out to be a real bluey green, which happens to be a favorite color of mine actually. I have it here in my house. And maybe that's got something to do with why that color is showing up. And this is a little tabletop easel that I'm finding really handy, and I'm glad I happen to have on hand at home right now, just for this particular project. And for this size of canvas, it works really well. For larger canvases, obviously, you would want to have a larger full easel that you can put big canvases on and stand in front of. This size canvas would be nice for sitting in front of. Putting in some kicks of white, just to add some contrast and interest. And now I'm just kind of standing back and taking a look at it and seeing what I want to do next. And I think that I'm going to go let's go all the way to the top over here. And I'm going to put more lighter blue in again on as I finish off this top left corner. Make a big wallop of this white paint. Mix it up with the blue. And dab it right in. So the effect is coming from the fact that I mixed up this blue paint, but I didn't mix it completely, and I still also had some paint on this sponge brush. So it allowed for a variety of colors to come out as I worked with it, and just added splotches of paint to this little corner that's left on the canvas. And just finishing up. And so you can see an interesting thing occurred when I splashed down completely from the top of the sponge brush, where there's still some darker green. And so the very upper corner got a little bit darker. That created an interesting effect that I really am surprised and excited about. So that is now got the full canvas covered. Hello. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for watching. Good to see you. And everybody else who I think I have said hello to already. Thanks for being here. And I just knocked one of my plastics off the table. Fortunately, it didn't have any paint or water in it yet. And I'm just standing back here and looking at my canvas and thinking about how I want to maybe finish off this background. And as I was saying, I'm looking at this as a reference, this photography of butterflies, and noticing how the backgrounds are looking with the photographer's lens being out of focus, as it is focusing with a macro lens on this very tiny butterfly. So these different images, the greenery is blurred, and so that's sort of the effect that I'm trying to achieve, is sort of a blurry background where there's no really any recognizable stuff happening, just sort of implied by the different colors and textures. So I'm thinking I might add just a little bit of more linear texture, just to imply some stems. So I'm going to add a little more of a medium tone green, so adding more of a definite yellow and blue color. And just kind of using my brush right on the very edge. And just adding a few impressions of line work. Being careful not to overdo it, and who knows what that means. Just kind of, all kind of intuitive. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, so that gets a little bit of some, just a very subtle look of some lines in there, and I think I want to get them even darker. So I'm going to take blue and add just a hint of yellow to make it a really dark green. And also just a really tiny smidge of red. And the red is just going to make it an even darker green, just to give it a bold contrast with the greens that I have already. And I'm going to use smaller bristly brush, mix it together. On the palette. So as you can see, just got a tiny bit here, mixing it dark, and just adding a tinge of this, just a splotch of this red, which just adds a little bit of more darker, richer green to really provide a contrast. Okay. And I'm just going to go over it just a little bit in some of the areas where I already have the green sort of line work. Just a little bit of this darker line work in contrast. So then it's kind of giving the subtle indication of a light stem, and then gives it a little bit of dimensional dimensionality by adding the dark side. Yeah, I'm excited about how this is turning out. It's like lots of green textures. It's just nice to think about a nice, lush, green garden. Or even just going out into the ravine and noticing the nice greens that are beginning to form in the woods, in nature, as it's coming to life right now. Oh, that's so refreshing. So nice to think about. Okay. Oops. Crashed right into my vertical blinds. Sounded worse than it was. So I'm going to just switch now to a different brush. I just want to add a few more lines up here. And then go back to a different brush, a spongy brush again. Just because I'm seeing this big kind of splotch of yellow, and I just want to break it up a bit with this contrasting, nice, rich, dark green. So I'm just going to pat it in a bit, see how I like that. One thing that you'll see as you're watching me or as you work on your own, that sometimes you'll go too far and say, oh, I wish I hadn't quite done that. I liked it better before I did that. So sometimes that's when you know it's time to put down the brush and call it a day and let it dry and see what you think later. But sometimes it's still calling you and still saying, no, you need a little bit more of this or that here and there, and then it's time to just listen to that and go ahead and follow that thought, which is what I'm going to do, because I've decided that I'd like to put a little more of an intense yellow back in. I'm just mixing that up. And still need a little bit more yellow. So as you can see, there isn't a lot of instruction on this. I'm just kind of improvising. And that's kind of the beauty of doing this kind of painting. It's kind of intuitive and kind of process, improvising. I'm just going to put this on top. Some splashes of really intense little pieces, yellow. you see how that really brings it to the foreground a bit. So I've kind of focused it right here, and then I'm just bringing some of it out into the other areas. And now I've got all of this white. So I think I'm going to make use of it rather than just let it dry and go to waste. So I'm just thinking about looking at these, if you can see these yellow flowers in the background of this one particular photo. I'm going to add some white and have it get that kind of texture going. So I'm going to use a different brush and dab into this big thick white blob of paint and make use of it. And I'm just going to add this into some different areas. Where I already have some highlighted yellow. And I'm just going to make it a little sploochy and twisting my brush. See what happens when I do that, and see, then back and see if I like it. And I think I do. One thing about acrylic is if you decide once it's dry later in the day that didn't work out, and paint it all over again. Paint it white and start all over. And a little bit of paint goes a long ways. I've hardly touched these tubes of paint. So this is how you can just go with it and get started on a white canvas. When you have sometimes it can be intimidating when you have a big blank white canvas and you're not sure what to do, how to get started. So you can just get started as I've done on this video. And watch my process and do a similar process. And I'm just going to carry on and finish off some of these areas where I've kicked in some of this yellow, and I'm going back in with this smaller paintbrush and white paint. So, how is everyone doing? Nice. Lovely. Oh, thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. And I have no idea how much time has gone by, and that is what's wonderful about painting. You can just check the time now. Wow, I can't believe it's been a whole hour and I have had a wonderful time painting this. And I hope that it has inspired you to get creative on your own. Order up some paint and go to Delta Art, Michaels, Amazon, or check out what's on supply at the dollar store. You get great deals on canvas, especially if you're just beginning. That is a really great source of particularly canvases, but there's also brushes and sponges, sponge brushes and paints, all available at the dollar store as well. So depending on what your price bracket is and what you're comfortable with spending, there's lots of different alternatives. So I think that's it for today. And next week I'm going to carry on with part 2 of this, and we're going to do some fun work with stenciling and collage to see how we can take a painting like this and take it a little bit further with multimedia. So thank you again, everybody, for watching, and have a great rest of your week. Oh, I love it. I'm the Bob Ross of RWUC. I love it. Thank you, Pam. That's awesome. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Have a great finish to your day, and enjoy doing some art, whatever that means, whether it's cooking or polishing your car or watering the garden. Just get creative and have a great day, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye for now.